Imagine knowing your plane is going down. There's nowhere to land. There's no way to stop it. And all you can do is brace yourself for what comes next. That was the reality Billy Cranford faced on June 26, 2022. Billy was flying home when his plane suddenly began losing power. He was approaching the airport. He could see the runway, but then the runway started getting farther away. The plane wasn't going to make it. Billy knew what was happening. He was going to crash. He later remembered thinking, "This is it." Then the plane disappeared into the trees. The sound of the crash was violent. Trees slammed into the aircraft. The plane came down hard in the woods. And then everything went quiet. Billy eventually regained consciousness. He was badly injured. He had suffered a serious head injury, and his back was severely damaged. But he was still alive. And there was another person in the plane who was also seriously injured. Billy reached for his phone. He called 911. But there was a problem. He didn't know where he was. The plane had crashed deep in the woods, and rescuers were struggling to find them. Billy was hurt. His passenger was hurt, and they were waiting. For nearly an hour, they had no idea when help would arrive. And this was when Billy says he did something that changed the way he looked at the entire situation. He prayed. He asked God for strength, not for an easy way out, not for everything to suddenly disappear, just for enough strength to make it through what was happening. Meanwhile, Billy's family was beginning to hear what had happened. His daughter Lindsay knew her father was seriously injured. She also knew something else. Her father needed prayer. So people started praying. Friends prayed. Family prayed. And according to CBN's account of Billy's testimony, a prayer meeting was organized that night on Zoom. Thousands of people joined. Around 8,000 people reportedly came together to pray for Billy. Think about that. One man lying in a hospital bed. His family terrified. Doctors trying to determine how serious his injuries were. And thousands of people praying for him at the same time. Billy had suffered fractures to his face and head. There was swelling in his brain, and his back was badly injured. The situation was serious. But the next morning, something unexpected happened. Doctors performed an MRI, and Billy's back was already showing signs of improvement. A surgery that had seemed necessary was suddenly being reconsidered. Billy remembered his doctor telling him that it looked like they might be able to avoid the surgery. And Billy's response was simple. He believed God had healed him. And he wasn't alone in that belief. His family had been praying. Thousands of people had been praying. And his condition was improving. By the end of the week, the swelling in his brain had subsided. Billy was released from the hospital and began physical therapy. And according to his later testimony, he eventually made a full recovery. The man who had crashed a plane into the woods was flying again. He was spending time with his family again. He was living a life that, just days earlier, had seemed uncertain. But Billy's story isn't really about an airplane. It's about what happens when everything you depend on suddenly disappears. Because most of us will never experience a plane crash. But we all have moments when life feels like it's falling apart. A phone call can change everything. A diagnosis can change everything. A financial problem can change everything. A relationship can change everything. One moment you're completely in control, and the next moment you're wondering what you're supposed to do. That's when fear starts talking. It tells you there's no way out. It tells you that your situation is too big. It tells you that you've waited too long. It tells you that things will never change. But Billy's story is a reminder that the moment you lose control doesn't mean God has lost control. Billy didn't know where the plane was going to land. He didn't know how long it would take rescuers to find him. He didn't know how badly he was injured. And he certainly didn't know what the next few days would look like. But he prayed anyway. And maybe that's what you need to do today. Maybe you don't need to have every answer. Maybe you don't need to know exactly how everything is going to work out. Maybe you just need enough faith to take the next step, the next prayer, the next morning, the next day. Because sometimes faith isn't about knowing what God is going to do. It's about trusting him when you don't know. Billy believed that God had protected him in the crash. He believed that God had answered the prayers surrounding his hospital bed. And he believed that his recovery had a purpose. His story eventually became something he could share with other people. Not because every person receives the same outcome. Not because prayer means nothing bad will ever happen. But because even in the middle of something terrifying, hope can still exist. And if you're watching this while you're going through something you don't understand, remember this. Your circumstances are not the same as Billy's. Your story will be different. Your answer may look different, but you don't have to face tomorrow alone. You can pray. You can ask God for strength. You can ask for help. And you can keep moving forward, even when you don't know what comes next. Maybe right now you're staring at a situation that looks impossible. Maybe you can't see a way out. Maybe the runway is disappearing in front of you. But don't assume that because you can't see the way forward. There isn't one. Billy couldn't see the outcome when his plane went down. He could only see the trees. He could only hear the crash. He could only feel the pain. But that wasn't the end of his story. And whatever you're facing right now isn't necessarily the end of yours. Keep praying. Keep believing. Keep taking the next step. And trust God with the parts of your story that you can't control. Because sometimes the moment when you feel like everything is falling apart is the moment when you discover just how much you were never carrying alone. This is Miracle Files. And if you believe God still works through impossible situations, keep watching, because there are more stories like this.